Hello, welcome to another episode of Untangled, your knitting and sometimes crochet question and answer show with me, Stuart from the Wool Patch.
And me, Jimmy from Jimmy Does Knitting.
Looking stunning in your Prada-inspired jumper. Oh, it is so good. When you put it on, do you just go, I made this and I'm so chuffed? Because I would.
It is. Also, I think that every time I do something with intarsia in general, something about the way an intarsia sweater feels, it just feels like knitting, you know? I don't know how else to describe it. I absolutely love it. I'm very happy.
Oh, absolutely. You look great in it. And you're beating me with the curls, Jimmy. Look at your hair getting longer and look how curly yours gets.
I know. We're all surprised by this one.
Love it. Right, let's go into question one then. Who have we got this week? We've got David from the UK. I love making and wearing cardigans, but always struggle with how to sew the buttons on neatly and securely. What technique would you recommend for sewing buttons to knitwear? Great question. In fact, this could be a whole show in itself one time or something on YouTube, because I think this gets overlooked a lot. Jimmy, how can you help?
Well, I'm going to defer to you a lot because you're the person that used to have fabric in the store and know a little bit about sewing. I am not a sewist by any means, but the two tips that I can think of are when you have the buttonholes, sometimes people line it up all nice, lay it all flat, and they put like a pin in where they want the button to go. So that way everything lines up nicely. And so then you open it up and then you can sew the button kind of around the pin and that's where you go. And then the only other tip that I have is make sure there's enough space for the fabric to fit through. So like if the button is like up against the band, you're not going to be able to fit another band there. So it needs to be a little further back, and then that will help with some tension issues too. Yeah. But aside from that, I don't really have much. I need to knit a cardigan. I'm going to swatch for it tonight. You can catch me on that. But I'm not a big cardigan knitter until probably now. But what do you think?
Those two techniques are basically it. Absolutely. Obviously, your pattern. There's two different things. There's obviously buttons and making your buttonholes. There are so many different ways of making buttonholes with knitting. Many of my ladies at the shop will ignore whatever the pattern says because they have their own preferred way of knitting buttonholes. Yeah, but with regard to sewing on your button, yes, there is a particular way, but it's that shank where you want enough distance between the fabric and the button itself, and then you've got this idea of winding the wool round at the last minute and then coming through the bottom. But I think that is giving me an idea to do like a YouTube video on that, because I don't often see videos giving examples of how to sew patterns on in knitting. There's loads in the fabric world, but that's now, I think, David, something that I think could actually go down well in the knitting world as a tutorial. But the way I have done it is just like fabric, as if you're sewing a fabric button onto a shirt. It's exactly the same process. Perhaps I'll have to speak to Irene too, because she's knitted a gazillion cardigans, and then film her doing it. That might be a good one to do. And then we can find out if there's something specific. Because I would always use the same wool sewing my button on, rather than a cotton thread, because you want it to look tonal and all the same, wouldn't you, Jimmy?
Well, it depends what look you're going for.
Yeah,
I've changed it up a little bit. If you want a pattern that's really good for practicing that on, may I recommend my Chianti cardi? Stuart had his whole Christmas window of that last year, and it's just like your extra sock yarn that you don't want to use, and it's like a cute little wine bottle holder essentially that looks like a cardigan. Pop a couple buttons on there. You can knit one in a day. It uses up scrap yarn. Practice with those buttons and you can call it a day.
Genius idea. And then you can play around with the buttons and how you do the the wool and whether you change the colour to a little pop, a contrast and whatnot. Oh, there you are. David, let us know how you get on. Brilliant. Next question. Question 2. Thank you, Jane, for another question. Can you share your most useful knitting and crocheting tips you know of that you wish you'd had known sooner? Teach us old dogs some new... Oh, Jane, what are you? You're you're still in your 20th year. Shut up, you. This is a hard one because I saw that question and I was thinking, what techniques do I know of that I wish I'd known sooner? I don't know whether I've actually got many at all. Have you?
The problem with me is I've only been knitting for like 3 or 4 years. I haven't been knitting for very long, so I don't really have a tremendous breadth of experience in terms of years. I knit obsessively, so I know a lot about knitting, but I don't have a lot of years to do that. Maybe what I would say is like, you don't have to make it complicated. Like I see a lot of stuff, especially on YouTube, where these people are like, I have these fancy stitch markers and I have this row counter and I have, this thing in a bag that I can pull an umbrella out of and all of this other stuff. And I've talked to several designers that are just like, for my stitch markers, I just tie some yarn and I do that. I don't have like anything fancy, So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be complicated. If those things bring you joy, if that makes you really like knitting the thing and it enhances the experience for you, by all means, go for it. But you don't need to have this hand-dyed yarn and all of this other stuff just to have a good time in a good product. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I don't have a fancy leather bag or, something cool from Redesign. I have just got a cardboard box. Look.
That is, maybe you need to... I always have tote bags just because you get tote bags for everything. So I have 1,000 tote bags with weird logos on them that I use.
Jane, what other things I wish I'd known sooner? Knitting and crochet tips. One tip that actually I don't know whether it's a case I wish I'd known sooner, but it was simple as when I cast off in the knitting world, I cast off with the crochet hook and not knitting normally. Old classic cast off, knit 2, and then with your left needle you pass that rear stitch over. Well, I dump the right needle completely and use the crochet hook. So you knit the first one on the crochet hook, and then the second one you just pull it through and pull it through. So you don't have that awkward bit of having to pick it up and stretch that stitch over. Everything keeps quite neat. It does make it a little bit tighter though, so if you want a stretchy cast off, it's perhaps not a good one unless you're doing a specific stretchy pattern. But crochet hook for casting off was a good little tip. But I think
you gave a good one that I think about sometimes. You said years ago that always fix brioche. Always fix brioche on the right side.
Yes.
But I think that applies to knitting in general because it's easier to visualize the V of the stitch rather than the purl bump of the stitch. And so if you have to turn your work around to fix it, sometimes that's a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more knitting? No, Jane, all I would say is keep listening to Untangled. Maybe all our tips have been there. But you've sent us many and many a question, which has shaped the podcast. So we do appreciate you listening and joining in. You might be a pro by the time we get to Christmas, Jane, with all the tips you've heard from Jimmy over the year. Great. Question 3, Jimmy. It's me. I've got a question, sir.
Get out the overhead cam.
Okay, it's knitting, and I'm going to put you on the spot here because I know we haven't chatted about this. It's the MKAL. Now, by the time this episode comes out, it's going to be 2 weeks down the road. So week 2 will be out, so this is no spoiler. But if you haven't started yet, then don't listen or watch. Let's go to the desk cam. Okay. So this is week 1 clue. We have these, it's very similar to the Go-Go Dynamo. We have these scallops, or like a rainbow, as I call it. It's going to go round like this. And we started off here. We then have these welts. Okay. Now, a welt, oh, where am I going? That way. A welt, just think of it almost like tubular cast on. Oh, I keep going out of the way. Can you see there? It's like the bottom of your jumper, and we would often call that in the knitting world a welt. Stephen West has called these welts. And what you do is, I'm going to come back to this camera again. I'm now about to do my second welt, but because it's like a rainbow, I've got more stitches to do. This welt, no problems at all. That was about 10 stitches. And you make the welt by having your stocking stitch 8 rows, and in essence it's going to be folded down on itself like that. Okay, so there's your welt. Can you see that? And you're going to get this nice tubular flap like you've got there. But you've got, in order to get that, you have to fold it over. And if I show you the back side, you have to knit a live stitch on your needle, Jimmy, and pick up your bump. Now, it's quite clear where the bumps are because I've got pale blue against dark blue. Okay, so there's my first bump to match my first stitch on my needle. All right, Jimmy? And then I knit another one and I find my second purl bump to knit with that one. And I just keep working down the line and eventually it's going to be joined and sandwiched together like that. Yeah? My problem is, Jimmy, can I find those bloody purl bumps mid-knitting? Because you're like this and you're having to stretch your yarn to pick up a purl bump. Right, I'm going to pick up this purl bump. But Jimmy, look what happens to purl bump number 2 on the left of it. So watch, let's get it really close. Watch that purl bump, which I'll have to pick up in a minute. So say I'm working on this purl bump and I pull it. Suddenly the purl bumps to the left start almost disappearing because obviously I'm working the stitch and it pulls it tighter. So it's going to be even harder for me to find that purl bump next time. Look, and I'm having to really open up the yarn to try and get my needle in there and pull. So I was just wondering if there's a tip for trying to pick those annoying purl bumps up, or is it a case of I've just got to get better and practice and practice and practice?
Okay, I have 2 ideas. One is very rude. And don't pull that purl bump so hard because you're taking the slack out of the other one. Okay. And that's what's making it go smaller. Okay. So that's like the obvious answer, but that's not tremendously helpful.
No,
what
I understand.
What you could do potentially is pre-pick them up. Get like the smallest needle that you have, so like some sort of sock needle, and then pre-pick them up. And then all you have to do is like 3 needle bind off them. That could also work.
Oh, what? Like, so pick that one up.
So pick up all of those purl bumps, and so you're working off of 2 needles now.
Oh my God. Oh,
but you could...
that is genius. So can I get this one picked up? And
I mean, use a very small needle because of the tension on that. I would definitely go for like, I don't know, 2.25 if you have it. But like, you could certainly pick them all up and then just 3 needle bind off them. And then you have, well, not bind off, but 3 needle like
absolutely
knit them together, and you could do that.
See, and this is why this podcast has you on it, because I could not. I have ripped. You wouldn't know how many times I've ripped that out. as I say, the first one I had no issue with at all because it was like 10 stitches. And I was like, yay, I'm loving this. Look at my brioche, Jimmy. Look at it.
Oh, that's really nice.
Isn't it? This is British wool. And then I've done this one so many times because I've clearly missed some of those pearl bumps. And as it's half the row's gone, I've seen that my welt has clearly got skewished like this as I folded it over and it's got stretched because I've picked up stitch number 4 with pearl bump number 10 or something daft like that. And I've ripped out, done it again, ripped it out, done it again, and I'm rapidly getting close to going, that's it, bailing out. I'm not doing the MKAL this year. And I thought, right, we're doing a podcast. This is perfect timing. It's 3 days since the launch of Clue 1. Can Stuart remain in it with the help of Jimmy? And I think you've just come up with that perfect answer.
I mean, and also you can just do like a garter bump or something if this is too much, right? Just do like 4 rows of a garter bump and it will be fine. Or like 2 rows. And it will still, it won't be the exact same effect, but it will get you through it if you can always modify the pattern.
Because that's a nice pearl bump to pick up. But look where as you say, I've stretched it and that one has positively shrunk. It's bloody tiny, isn't it, that one there?
Yeah.
So that's easily missable when you're halfway through knitting and it's folded over like that. It's really difficult. And then when you're stretching it out of shape, I'm like going, oh, where's my pearl bump? Where's my pearl bump? Now I've just lost the stitch too. Don't panic. There we are. Thank you for that. I might still be in the race.
Or, I mean, like, you could also just put, like, those light bulb stitch markers. I use those a lot. And you can just, I mean, it will take more time. But you can hook them on there, so that way you won't lose it because you mark them. Like, I use light bulb stitch markers for weird stuff like that, too. So at least that way you, like, have a place. Then, I mean, each time you would have to remove it and then, like, put it and reknit it and all that stuff. But at least you won't lose them.
Absolutely. Because I can then, in theory, tug up the bulb marker. That reveals the bump, and then I can put my needle in. In fact, I could prep the back with however many I've got. I could prep all 30 of them with 30 bulb markers on, couldn't I?
Yeah.
That would matter. Jimmy, you have saved the day. I think I'm just going to go straight to that one. Although I quite like the 3 needle bind off idea, having them all prepped on a needle. But actually there's something, I quite like the idea of it being less fiddly. All I do is pick up the next bulb, stretch it a bit, even though I know I'm not supposed to, and at least I can see where to go. Wonderful. And then, do you know what? I might then be able to carry on going. Only issue is there's another welt to do after that. So imagine that's folded over. There's then some eyelets here, and then there's another big welt right at the top to make this kind of scallop. It's very almost Art Deco feel to it. And then I have to do that another 5 times. Can I do that another 5 times? 3, maybe. 4 might be pushing it. Can I do another 5?
Or you have to knit them onto each other.
Yeah, some are grafted on because it's kind of goes. Imagine that's number 1. Then you've got another one either side, and then one in the middle. It's like brickwork. You know how they're offset, and then it sort of fans up like that to then have 3 along the top, 2, and then 1 in the middle.
Okay. Well, maybe you could do the ones in like the same row at the same time, and so you just do like.
Oh yeah.
like 2 at a time sleeves sort of thing. I don't know how this thing is constructed. I'm not working on this, so I'm not entirely sure. But you could maybe just do that and just like batch them. I don't know.
It's definitely
maybe
been
that's a good idea. Maybe not.
It's definitely been fun. But you know when something challenges you and you can't do it, you then get frustrated, and then you go through another sort of feeling of I can do this and I won't be beaten, and then you go through another phase of I'm not doing it anymore. So I'm getting close to that. I've gone through the I don't want to be beaten phase, still can't get it right. I was so close last night going through the phase that and then that's when I remembered I was speaking to Jimmy tonight. He can give me some tips.
Maybe that sock needle is your way to do it, because that way you can just pick them all up at once and then do that.
With the bulbs or the needle? Say again? I missed
the
that.
Needle. It's all just at once, and you don't have to fiddle with all the stitch markers. Maybe
I will try that first, because I have got some really nice 2.5 mil needles, and they'll just slip through, won't they?
It will be a lot easier, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter what gauge that needle is, and so if you can just get a small one and then put it in, that might help. You know what? There are also, I don't know if there are any tutorials, but this is the same technique as like a folded over neckband, and I'm sure that there are. Well, not this one. This is not a folded over neckband, but you know how the all the YouTube girlies fold over the neckband and they swear it's like the most innovative thing.
I know.
But there are technique videos about like how to better do that and pick up the stitches and how to learn it. So maybe if those don't work, you can figure out something from one of those technique videos. But I don't know. I don't have anything to recommend.
I have complete faith in you, Jimmy. Your tips have indeed. I can see it. I can visualize it. So, and this is where sometimes when you're so stuck in it, following instruction, you can't see the wood for the trees. So you don't even think of different ways of trying to sort it. Well, I don't. I end up just getting fed up and chucking it across the room. So it sometimes takes someone else to go, oh no, just do this, just do that. So much appreciated. Tune in, viewers, then next week, and hopefully you'll be seeing 5 beautifully scalloped welts. Oh, I love it. Before we go, Jimmy, what is on your needles at the moment? I know from looking at some of your Instagram and YouTube reels, you've bought a lot of yarn, haven't you?
So there's somebody who just talks up West Yorkshire Spinners yarn all the time. So I may have placed a little tiny order and have way too much yarn now. But I bought the Croft Aaron and DK, the BFL fleece, and the Jacob. And so those things need to get on the needles soon. So I'm going to use the Croft DK, and I'm going to knit like a vintage pattern that I got at a train station with that. I think that's it. And then I also applied for a test knit, which I will either be working on or not working on by the time that this comes out. And I would like to use the Jacob fleece for that. And then the rest, I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. But I'm currently knitting a round yoke Marius, which is mediocrely done because I had to do the math for the yoke. But everybody knows what a Marius is, and that's a very exciting project for me now.
So much. So we're all knitting away. Let us know what projects you're knitting or crocheting. We don't forget about crochet. We just depends on what we're talking about. Let us know. Keep us updated. We love to read in the comments what you're doing. That's it for another show. That's 25 minutes done. 3 questions. The cheeky one from me. And I look forward to showing you the progress in a couple of weeks' time. Cheers, Jimmy. Thanks for your time. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Cheers. Ta-ra.
Bye.